Everyone hates Gabi, huh? I noticed yesterday when the Attack on Titan episode aired, many were on social media and on Reddit talking about how awful Gabi is as a person and as a character, and some few individuals were saying that she is ruining the series, but that's very small minority. The point I'm trying to say, though, is that when you look at everything, obviously Gabi is striking quite a chord with a lot of people. She is someone that is riling up the Attack on Titan community. And we gotta take a closer look at exactly what is going on here and why some actually hate her, why they don't like her as a person, and even hate her as a character. When you look at the latest episode, episode 70 of Attack on Titan, if we're keeping count of all the episodes that aired, Episode 70 showcases how awful Gabi can be as a person. I think at this point, people probably wouldn't like Gabi to begin with because of everything that happened with Sasha. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense why this episode might have amplified that overall rage and anger towards Gabi as a character, thanks to just everything we've witnessed already. Now, this episode, episode 70, does try to show just how despicable and awful she is, how brainwashed she is, how naive she is, how she is someone that doesn't truly understand the world around her. And I think anyone that has been paying attention to the story of Attack on Titan, especially this season of Attack on Titan, most likely has seen the striking resemblance of Gabi to Eren's early, stages of his story. Like, I remember when Attack on Titan Season 1 came out, and even Season 2, I remember people absolutely ranting about Eren's character, saying he is the worst main character. All he knows is how to scream, all he knows is how to whine, he has no personality besides being angry and mad. This was something that many actually said a lot in the past. You could probably go back to old forums and everything on discussions of early episodes of Attack on Titan and find this. People absolutely hated Eren as a character, and people literally were using Eren as an excuse to say Attack on Titan was just straight up a bad series. That was something that was done continuously in the past, before obviously the events of Season 3 and the events of, what's going on now in Season 4. We have seen obvious big changes in Eren as a character, but before these changes, Eren was definitely not likable, and I think many that actually think back on that could agree that Eren wasn't really that likable of a character when we first began the series. And when you look at Gabi, she is definitely, once again, a striking resemblance of everything that Eren was at the beginning of the story. Now, obviously, even though you might see the similarities between Gabi and Eren, and obviously Gabi is being used as someone that is Eren, but without the character development. Basically we're showcasing how much Eren has grown, where he's at now, and where Gabi's at the beginning of the growth. We can see just how much the series has evolved since then. That's a big plus. But despite that, despite her character being used for that, it's understandable why people would not like her. I mean, her character, in all regards of what we saw from this episode, she is very insufferable. She is definitely annoying. I will fully agree with that. Just separating everything I know, separating every bits of knowledge I know from the manga, and just putting everything from the anime only, she is definitely insufferable from this episode. I fully understand why people would not like her as a person, but as a character, I disagree with how some might not like her as a character, and let me explain. Besides obvious, what I just pointed out, with her being, once again, a resemblance to Eren, you also have a different perspective. Gabi getting to see the world in a different light, similar to Eren, but in a different way. Gabi is obviously never been born on Paradise Island. She has always been someone at an early age that was indoctrinated and fed propaganda of the Marleyans, and basically was forced to learn that everyone that wasn't a part of the Marleyan Empire and all these Eldians, they all deserved to be punished. They deserved to be locked away. And anyone on Paradise Island, they're devils. She has been, bred in a way to believe that. That's what she's always believed. That is what a lot of her people believe. And that's basically what's kind of going on here, is that Gabi is a representation of the very problems that both sides have been building up. For instance, Gabi is like an example on hatred between both sides. Not just the Marleyans, but also the Eldians. Both sides have individuals like Gabi. And you can take that in a very different way than her just being a replica to Eren. She is basically someone that is born thanks to just the awful nature of how the world is. And if something isn't done, if someone doesn't really step in, this cycle will continue to happen over and over and over and over again on repeat. It's very similar, honestly, and kind of symbolic that it's kind of like how Titans being passed on is. For instance, how Founding Titan, or how, certain Attack Titan, we have the Armor Titan, how they're all passed down without, with a certain amount of time passes, they have to carry on that legacy to the next person. It's kind of like a cycle. And when you look at Gabi, she's another example of kind of like a cycle, something that continuously happens if something doesn't change. And another way to look at this, Gabi as a character, she is someone that is starting to slowly but surely wake up. Because the difference she has, instead of what Eren didn't, is that she has someone that seems to be a little bit more compassionate. Someone that is able to look at both sides with a very skewed perspective. We look at Falco as a character. Falco, he is someone that obviously was born and raised in the exact same place as Gabi. But obviously, looking at everything about him, looking at what drives him and all that, it's fundamentally different. It's very, very, very different. And one of these big reasons why he's like he is because he actually really cares and loves Gabi. And he doesn't want her to go through the suffering and awful cruelties of the world, so he wants to take it upon himself to win that, Armor Titan for himself and not let Gabi have it. And so he gets to see the despicable things from a different perspective than Gabi, because to him, he doesn't want her to actually go through all the horrific things that he has seen already. He doesn't want her to suffer. He wants her to have a very long life. And this is, in its own way, a callback to kind of what Eren was talking about in the previous episode, with how he didn't want any of his friends to grab the Titan, shifting from him. He didn't want to pass it on to any of them, because he wants all his friends to have very long lives. And it's very similar to probably what is driving Falco. He wants her to have a very long life. Even if she might be upset with him and angry with him and maybe never want to be with him if he does actually get the Armor Titan, he wants to do that for she will actually live. She will have a life instead of having to go to war and never having anything but that. But getting back into the cycles I was briefly talking about, the more nods to this cycle and this theme is kind of what happened with Hanji within the episode. When Hanji was, beside herself, she was really upset after everything that's going on, after her basically not telling the truth to the media, basically keeping people out of everything going on and locking people up there in their own way, just fighting for what they believe in. She is repeating the very cycle that they tried to break many episodes ago. Let's think about the circumstances here. In Season 3 of Attack on Titan, we know what our group of characters did. We know what Levi did. We know what Hanji did. We know what Erwin did. We know what Eren did. We know what Mikasa did. Armin, the list goes on. You get the point. We know what they did to overthrow that current ruling status, the hierarchy, the nobles, etc., to get his story into power. They had to fight so hard to really get everything moving, get the ball moving to where they're at right now. And even though they did try to break the cycle, and they have done some changes that's never been done before, theoretically, Hanji notices that they're going down the exact same path as their predecessors. Hanji realizes that once again, they're hiding information. They're not telling the truth. They are locking up people that truly want to see positive change that potentially could help out. She notices that they are just repeating the exact same thing like a cycle. And in a way, can we truly ever escape these cycles? That is a fundamental question I think Attack on Titan really wants to bring up. A symbolic question. Can humanity break away from stuff like this? Or are we cursed to just inevitably continue doing these same things over and over again? That's some food for thought. But getting back on topic to everything, the point though is that Gabi, I like her as a person and as a character because of what she brings to the table, what she tries to do. Basically, she shows that how much propaganda indoctrination could do to someone, to where they will look at someone as a devil. You're less than human to them, and they want you gone. That's what Gabi views with her own eyes towards anyone that is on Paradise Island. She doesn't look at any of them as one of her own, and it's really interesting. I really love the storytelling of Attack on Titan. It's different. It's definitely not trying to sugarcoat things, and I know this can definitely throw people off and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. But I like that. The fundamental writing of Attack on Titan, with how it actually doesn't shy away from these very harsh realities, is something that I think many have come to really respect. The fans of the manga that have, are up to date right now, love this series for some of this writing style, of how it doesn't try to shy away from the cruelties of what reality is. And not everything is black and white. There is a lot of gray within the world, and cycles that will continuously repeat each other, and maybe never actually get broken. But let's get into a little bit more of that, the hatred and how it potentially could be broken. We gotta look at the circumstances of Gabi and what happened towards the end of the episode, and kind of the message that the writer was trying to do, but also the animator as well, with the beautiful visuals and storytelling with the voice acting. You have it to where Gabi is taken basically into custody of Sasha's family. It's very ironic, honestly, looking at the entire situation, because technically what Gabi has done is the sole reason to why maybe Sasha's family is suffering right now. Well, we know that's definitely true. They're grieving, they're suffering, but even despite everything that's happened to their daughter, their family member, they open their arms up wide for someone like Gabi and someone like Falco, and don't turn them away with malice and anger. And in their own mind, what they view is someone that is unaware, someone that is naive, and they're not wanting to shift their anger, their hatred, to individuals that have nothing to do with their current problem. For instance, let's just say someone was to trip someone, okay, right in front of you, and you were sitting there and all that, and then all of a sudden a bystander looks at you, he's like, you're also responsible. You watched that man trip him. That's basically what is going on, is that they don't want to blame someone for someone else's actions. They're not responsible. They're not. And that's kind of what was being brought up, is that something that happened 1,000 years ago, something that happened 100 years ago, something that happened another day ago, if it wasn't the person actually committing the act and they were not affiliated with it, it's not their fault. And that's basically what's going on. And Gabi's entire reality started to crack and crumble in that moment. She couldn't justify what she was saying, which was causing her to literally, her mind to break. She didn't even know what to think in that moment, because she never had to accept this type of reality. Nothing like this ever presented itself to her. The question now is what will Gabi do as a character now knowing this information? Will she accept this new reality, or will she shy away and sit in her hole and continue to be someone that spews hatred and propaganda? That is the fundamental question about all of this, which goes a little bit further. I know I've talked about how someone is a bystander and didn't really do anything, but the other question is what if the family finds out what Gabi actually did? What if they find out Gabi is the sole reason and responsible for Sasha's death? Would they be so lenient then? Or would they commit hatred towards Gabi? See, that is a question, and that is the moral dilemma in this moment, is that, yes, we now know they won't judge someone for someone else's actions, but what will they do to those that actually did cause problems? See, that is another question. Now, obviously, them going out of their way and punishing Gabi in its own way wouldn't be entirely correct either, because Gabi, once again, is naive. Everything she's been fed since the very beginning, she believes everyone is the enemy. Very similar to kind of how Eren is, and how his perspective was, and how he must continue moving forward, and that everyone's the enemy, he must annihilate them for, his people, for his side of humanity. It's interesting, honestly. So, it's a really interesting moral dilemma for Gabi. Now, another thing too, though, which is a little bit of an uplifting, happier feel to this episode, is the scene where the little girl, mentions that the reason why she is like she is, and the reason why she's so nice, is because she takes inspiration from Sasha. And this is emotional for obvious reasons, because just seeing Sasha's will carry on. And in its own way, it's like Sasha, even though we know she died, her very spirit, her will carries on within someone else. Her beliefs, her love carries on in a person. And so, just as how hatred could be spewed and it could continuously be passed down, for instance, Gabi, great love as well and great kindness can also be passed down too. It just really depends on the circumstances of life itself. So that is a major topic of this episode. I love Attack on Titan, as you can see. It's so interesting to be able to sit down and dissect the nitty-gritty of what it's about and what really is happening within this story. This is a great episode, and I think that it's great to see actually a divide, people not liking Gabi as a character, because it kind of reinstates the main point of what Attack on Titan is about, is that there's sides and also gray areas, and that's kind of what's happening here, especially with the community mixed on Gabi as a character. So next time you start thinking like, oh, you know, this person doesn't like Gabi and all that, you know, I don't like them for that, then, you know, let it slide, because it actually fits with the whole theme of what Attack on Titan is really trying to convey. That's the point, because from our perspective, our viewpoint is very skewed. We have seen most of the story from Eren's POV, from the Paradise Islands POV. And obviously, if we spent majority of the series, 3+ seasons, with the Marleyans on the mainland, our perspective might be very different. Think about that. But I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you got this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.